Last Friday, my neighbor Dan invited me over for what he called a wine-tasting soirée. Now, Dan's the type of guy who wears cargo shorts to weddings and once tried to grill a pizza, so I was a little skeptical, but hey, free wine is free wine. I showed up with a fancy cheese platter, trying to look like I belonged at an event that used words like soirée, only to find Dan in his backyard, pouring Franzia from a box into solo cups. He pointed at a folding table covered in more boxed wines than a college dorm and said, "Tonight, we travel the world, via the discount aisle." It started off innocent enough. Dan handed out wine scorecards he printed on the back of old CVS receipts, and we sipped our way through Chateau cardboard selections, discussing the notes of grapish and sorta fruity. Then Dan pulled out a stack of index cards and announced, "Now, to really test your wine knowledge, it's time for the quiz round." That's when things got weird. The first question, "What is Cheryl's birthday?" I asked, "Who's Cheryl?" Dan answered, "My second ex-wife." Were you even listening during the Merlot? As the quiz continued, the questions got stranger. Which ex-wife made the best lasagna? How many cats did Linda own before the restraining order? Which ex-wife's mother called me a disappointment in 3 different languages? At this point, I realized this wasn't a wine tasting, it was a thinly veiled therapy session with alcohol and audience participation. My cheese platter was now serving as an emotional support snack. By the end, Dan tallied our scores and declared, "Congratulations, you know almost as much about my ex-wives as my divorce lawyer." He handed me a plastic trophy labeled Best Listener, and as I left, I asked, "So, what's next week, boxed whiskey and a pop quiz on your childhood traumas?" He grinned and said, "No, next week is beer pong and remembering my alimony payment dates, so bring a calculator."